Hello everyone, Republic Jim. I'm back in the barn for a quick video today. I had hoped to be out in the woods, but it's quite windy today, and so I opted for safety and not having to worry about getting hit by any stray tree branches. But today I wanted to talk about just a basic overview of some different types of lighters. And this won't be any new information to anyone that's experienced in woodscraft and fire starting, but thought I'd do one for anybody that's just starting out and wanting to learn a little bit more about it. And also I should point out that I'm only covering a few types of lighters. I'm not going to discuss matches or waterproof matches or fireplace matches or ferro rods or Zippo lighters and all sorts of other options. You know, this is just a few possibilities, and just wanted to go over just real simple basic stuff with them. So with that said, let's jump right in. First off is the typical Bic lighter that you can get anywhere. Everybody's seen them and probably used them. And you know, just a little wheel and hold that down for flame. Very simple to use. Does have some drawbacks. It's not especially good when it gets wet or in the wind. But, and then another thing that can be kind of difficult is if you're trying to light a fire on the ground and trying to reach down there, the flame comes up on your thumb. So that can be a little problematic, but works fine for lighting tinder and, you know, just getting that started. So it can be something that's very simple to carry in a pack just for emergency fire starting. As I said, they're available pretty much everywhere. They're inexpensive. Just work on butane. Pretty much everybody could have one as a backup. And another variation on that is these that are typically used for lighting barbecues or fireplaces, and those type of uses. Just this basic cheapo lighter also. It's got a little safety switch on there that you have to hold back and then trigger to light that. Much like the Bic lighter, but it does have a little bit stronger flame. And of course, my straw here is kind of damp, but you get the idea. And note that I do have a jug of water here just in case, since I'm standing in a barn full of straw. But anyway, this thing has the same disadvantage of the Bic lighter as far as wind resistance, and probably don't want to get this wet either. It is refillable. Some of them are just disposable ones, but this particular model is refillable if you have the butane canisters, and it's just a convenient way to light fires, especially at home, like in the wood stove or in a barbecue. Could be handy for carrying in a car. Not as convenient for in a pack just because of being larger and bulkier, and it isn't especially heavy or anything, but you know, it's something that actually, if I was going to be carrying something like this, I might consider replacing it with this instead, just because it does work better. One, aside from the bigger flame, one real advantage is when you're lighting stuff on the ground, you can put it down there and you don't have to worry about burning yourself. So, you know, definitely something to consider if you're just looking for starting a fire on the ground and the conditions aren't real severe. That thing can work quite well for that. As long as you have a way to stick it in your pack and it's not too bulky or anything, definitely a good option. Then we get to butane torches, which there's all kinds of variants on those. There's a lot of higher end ones for lighting cigars, and including ones that have multiple jets on them and such. But basically, this one's just real cheap, just has the fuel canister there. He has a little cover there you open up, and then it has the igniter and shoots out a little jet there. Puts out a little bit hotter, more direct flame than the Bic lighter, and it's hard to keep it going if you angle it too much, but it does work okay for doing stuff on the ground. This one's a little low on fuel right now too, but it still has the problem with wind, so it's something to factor in there too, depending on what kind of conditions you expect to use it in. But we'll get tinder and such burning a little bit easier than the other lighters, just because of putting out a more, a hotter flame. And as I said, these ones are quite inexpensive, also refillable, and you can get the more exotic ones for cigar lighting and such, and there are waterproof versions of these too. One thing that people should be aware of with any of these types of lighters that use butane is that the colder it is, the less effective they are. When you start getting down well below freezing, it can be challenging to get them to put out a flame long enough to get anything lit. And you get cold and high elevation and such, they can definitely be a problem. But under most conditions, they're going to work okay. Then the other ones I wanted to talk about are so-called plasma lighters. They just use an electrical current. I've got two different models here. They're both ones that you charge up with a USB cable. And they have built-in battery, and then they generate this electrical arc. This one has the two electrodes facing each other, and I don't know how well that shows up, but generates that little arc across there. Now the downside to that is that whatever you're lighting has to actually go in between there to light, but it definitely that one there puts out a strong current, and as you can see, it will light something up pretty well. One real benefit to this type of lighter is that it's not affected by the cold, other than possibly battery life. As long as you start out with it fully charged, and especially if you have a power bank or something, or a solar charger along with you, you can recharge it when needed. But they will actually start a lot of fires before the battery goes dead. So they're a good option for cold. They're a lot more resistant to wind. So, you can use them in some pretty extreme conditions. This particular one I wouldn't use if it was extremely wet, just because it's not made to be watertight. It is actually fairly water resistant with the case, but it's not perfect for that. And the USB charging port is just on the bottom there. Just a micro USB port that doesn't have anything to cover it, so that could potentially short out. But that one is especially good if you have small tinder, and if you're using paper or some of these commercial tinders that are thin, or if you're using birch bark or real fine shavings from a feather stick or something, you can just insert it between the electrodes and light it right up. Then the other option, this one is entirely waterproof. It's all encased in here and it's very protective. And the USB charging port is on the side, on top there, inside this cover, so no worries about that. This one also has another nice feature in that the probes point up, and the electrical arc, there's 4 probes there, and it arcs across the top of them, so you don't have to put your tinder inside of it, although it doesn't stick up real high, so you have to get right down to it. But with the probes facing up like that, it gives you the option of just touching something to it. You don't have to actually be able to get it in between the probes, so it'd be much easier to light a cotton ball or various other tinder bundles and stuff without having to try and squeeze it in there. So, and you know, again, you're not going to blow it out. So this one is kind of your best option for extreme, you know, wind and wet and cold and everything. You know, again, making sure that you have it charged up and a way to recharge it if necessary, but especially for shorter outings, or if you're just carrying it for emergencies and you're not planning to actually use it unless you absolutely need to. This is a good way to go for backup. So, yeah, that's about it for those. I just had those 5 that I wanted to talk about. As I said at the start, you know, there's all these other options for starting fires. These are just some simple ones that don't require any skill or special knowledge or anything, and just a very basic way to start your tinder. And yeah, hope that is some useful information for people just starting out and considering what options to carry in their packs for fire starting and such. Feel free to leave comments or ask any questions down below. This has been Republic Jim. I'll talk to you later.